listen, thanks very much for joining us. You do a lot of different things, and big thing that I really want to talk about is being an outrider.
I started at Peterborough when I was not of the age to drive a vehicle yet. So my poor father or the LaRushes put up with me getting me to Kawartha Downs and back. And from Kawartha, that led to Greenwood. And I was still in school, obviously. And then I got my license and I continued on at Greenwood until they moved to Mohawk, and they had another lady that did Mohawk. Obviously, there was quite a commute involved. Mm-hmm. And then I was out of it for a little bit. I finished school, was at Standardbred Canada, as you know, for 10 or 11 years, then to corporate communications at Woodbine. And then started, I guess, parade marshalling on big days for Industry Day, thanks to you, Confederation Cup at Flamborough, some signature events. And from there, it led back to Mohawk as a substitute for the girls that were working there. And it 9 years ago ended up becoming another full-time position.
Wow. So you're, yeah, I didn't realize that you had done that like in your teens as well at Kawartha. I
have a picture from 1990.
So
at Kawartha Downs.
So how old would have been as a teenager, right? I know you're not going to say. We just had a conversation about you being sensitive about your age just a couple moments ago. So I know you're not going to disclose, but you would have been a teenager then, basically, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just ahead of driving age.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do the math on my own. Okay. So you've been doing this basically full time. So is it fair to say every race night you're there at Woodbine-Mohawk Park taking care of the outriding duties?
Yes, I am every night.
Okay. And you have a couple of horses that you use for?
I have three. I have two that are currently working right now. One that in usual equine fashion has some issues going on. We haven't been able to pinpoint them. She's been up to Guelph a couple of times. She might be looking to retire permanently. Yeah. The boys have picked up the slack very well the last 2 years. And I've got a retired standardbred that is going through the paces with the Moluccas to be a little bit more exposed, who has started to dabble pony and horses up there. Mm-hmm. So once restrictions are lifted and I can get somebody to ride beside me, usually it's Emma or Debbie O'Brien, we'll get another one broken in. My one old reliable is getting older, and I'm sure he doesn't want to work 3 nights a week anymore.
Yeah, which one is that? The old reliable?
Sniper is my senior man. Jay is my go-to mount. He's younger. He's a little bit more of a character. They're both very, very, very different. And I look at my entries every night to see who's working. And then when Rosie was in the rotation, it was just to relieve the boys. The horses are like us. They don't want to work 7 days a week all the time. So my guys, they're spoiled. They go out every day. They've got their buddies, they're blanketed. They get tucked in every night. I need 3 again for the Breeders' Crown coming back to Mohawk. And it's not a job that just any horse can go out on the track and behave and do. And there's not a lot of room for a horse to act up out there either. So there's a lot of work that goes into getting them exposed and ready for the crowds, the tractors, the umbrellas, the horses, the whipping down the stretch. There's a lot that people don't take into account when you bring a horse up to a track. My guys, they'll walk down the backside with a field flying by them and it doesn't flinch them. That's not every horse.
Right. Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. Yeah, they really have to be a well-rounded individual, I guess. But then they have to be ready to fly into action when you tell them so, right?
Yeah, here at Mohawk, when I started, when I was younger, when the track had a hub rail, we did set chase to some horses. Every so often there is a picture that'll surface on social media of me catching one at Greenwood. That's not so much the case anymore. The track is wide open. There's a lot of places to exit. There's a lot of culverts. It's not the safest to set to it anymore. And we just found that they will usually pull themselves up. And the first concern is the humans in the accident, and making sure the rest of the field is aware of where everybody is at what times. So the policy at Mohawk has been, if they slow up and you've got a clean run at them, that's fine. But if there's a lot of other moving parts on the racetrack, whether it be the ambulance, the vet, whoever, just let them come to grips with themselves. And, quite often the bikes are pretty mangled. They make a hell of a racket behind them when they're not tracking properly. So there's a lot of things to take into account.
Right. So that's obviously a very, thankfully, that's a very small part of the job. So what is the primary function then of the Outrider as you see it?
Well, when we go to work at night, we report in just like the drivers do. And for each race, we lead out the field. We try to keep them in programmed order. As they come out and do a loop around my horse and I, we look to make sure lines are done up, checks are on, earplugs are in, the safety straps are done up, just to make sure everything is in place and ready to go. I'm in contact with the starter, the judges, and the paddock judge. So if somebody has to go back to the paddock for a shoe or an equipment adjustment, they let me know and I radio that through. Some horses for long post parades come into the pony to relax a little bit, give the driver's arms a break. Some horses don't turn when they get called to the gate. Yeah. So I've probably got 25 that I highlight that I take to the gate. Okay. Most are willing participants. So some of them work us pretty hard, but that's when I decide which horse is doing what. Like Hemi Sealster, he meshes with Jay, the younger of my two. And there's a couple of other horses that get along really well with Sniper. And there's a few that I've needed Rosie because she just doesn't put up with anything. She's down and out and she uses her shoulder to push them over and get them going. And they're good that way.
So you actually look at the entries for that night to see which horses are racing, having some idea of who's going to need your assistance, and then you pick the horse you're going to use based on those entries?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know
because they're
that.
like people. Yeah, they're like people. My horse doesn't get along with some horses. They just don't like one another. So, I try to keep them all friendly and happy. And I'll look at the entries tonight and I know who my trouble kids are. And then I'll decide who I'm going to suit up for tonight's card.
Okay, that's really interesting. I also didn't know that you had radio contact with the officials as well. So I figured part of what you were doing was keeping an eye on things. I didn't realize that you were looking to that degree at everything. That was actually one of my questions was, to what degree, are you always having your eyes active on what's going on? I think of it like, I think of it like the pool I go to. There's this, the pool I go to the odd time to swim, which is it was just hardly ever. But anyways, the pool I used to go to pretty frequently. There's a lifeguard and she's one of the adult lifeguards. And I would kind of get a kick out of the first time I went to ask her a question, like, what time should I come in the morning if I want to avoid all these other swimmers? I think that's probably what I was asking her. And when she crouched down to talk to me, I'm in the pool and she's crouching down and I'm asking her, but she's not looking in my eyes, right? She's looking at all the other swimmers. And I was like, okay, I get it. You're a lifeguard. You're supposed to keep your eyes on the lives that are in the pool, but there's like two other people in the pool. Like you could look at me in the eyes for like 2 seconds to answer my question. Anyways, so I wondered if that was like, is that what you're doing the whole time that you're out there when there are horses on the track? Are your eyes always working?
Yes,
always scanning?
Because it could be the judges radioing that one of the little chips for the number pads isn't working, so that horse has to come back to the paddock. I try if I can I'll get off sometimes to check one up, or if they need a hand to hold one while they adjust a bike. If we're all the way up the backside, we'll try and stay and do it out there. We've had different things come undone or whatever, and I try to help them out there, but sometimes they do have to come back into the paddock.
Right.
And the one horse is 15 hands, the one is 16 hands. So the taller one of the two, I can reach over most horses and put earplugs in. The smaller of the two, sometimes I have to get off to put earplugs in. So, it varies. And the drivers are very good. They'll tell me what they're doing or what they need. And yeah, you're always watching to see. You never know when that one horse isn't going to turn.
Right.
It's not always the ones that don't turn. It could be anybody really, or it could be any head pole that breaks or what have you. So.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So it's actually quite busy all the time. From the outsider looking in, I'm sure that the perception is that the Outrider is there, A, for pomp and ceremony, and B, in case of catastrophe, right? That's basically how most of us think about the Outrider, when in fact,
yes,
you're like that lifeguard, just like scanning all the time. And working as the eyes and ears of the officials as well, which
Yep.
Again, I didn't know. So that's really interesting. All right. Is there a particular moment and I'm not looking for the catastrophe, that's not what I'm looking for here. Is there a particular moment in your outriding career that really stands out for any particular reason? A moment that you're really proud of, or
I guess, well, I like to think that I go to work and I do the job as best I can, and I try to keep the horses working to their prime and always ready for whatever presents itself. I guess the one night that there was an amateur race, the pictures got quite a bit of play on Facebook, and I'm not even sure who took the picture. I had two amateur drivers that needed help to the gate because their horses were pulling pretty good, and I was like, I wonder how I'm going to do this, because if I have two to turn in the same race, I know that I can say, okay, Kelly, you come to me at the 3/8 and I'll turn you, and I'll meet so and so at the half and turn them, and we should all get going in the right direction.
Right.
Because not every horse I turn will continue forward. They'll U-turn and come back to me. So it's a little bit of give and take.
Yeah.
So this particular night, both of them wanted to be led, and they were both down around the quarter pole. So I said, okay, you on my right and you on my left. And I used my reins in my teeth to guide my horse. So somebody snapped that picture on HPI, and it's gone crazy on Facebook a few years ago, but that was probably it.
Yeah. You got through it okay, though.
Oh, yeah. Everybody made the gate.
Which horse is it that you were using that night? Do you remember?
That night I did use Sniper.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds like a handful. That I need a rest just after listening to that story.
It's funny, and it's when there's nights. There was one here probably 6 months ago, and they usually take him off the track at the B tracks, and we thought he might pony. So I said to the trainer, no problem, I'll grab him. And he walked beside me for about 5 feet, and then he reared up, and I never let go. I wouldn't do that to the drivers. And he was like, I had two beautiful hoof prints on the back of my horse's quarter sheet. So we ended up letting go, but he walks beside us. He didn't want to be held beside us.
I see. They're all individuals,
that's what I say.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Some are willing participants and other ones don't want to be bothered.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's incredible. How do you prepare for this? Like, how do you, I mean, I guess, you certainly don't take a course anywhere for outright. Like if somebody wanted to become an outrider, what is the process? You have to be an adept rider, obviously.
Yeah, the horse is quite a bit. I mean, my guys are very good. They got to be very sensitive. Most of my control is in my legs on my horses. None of them wear bits. They wear a hackamore. So they neck rein like just push button. A lot of it's the horse, and a lot of it you have to be able to ride, because when I do latch on to one that's not a willing participant, if they really don't want to go, there's been some that have lifted me out of the saddle. I'm going to say 99% of the time I get them going forward, and I don't recall anybody not getting to the gate. And I've had some bad ones, like PL Idaho was not nice. Hemi Sealster was not nice, but they get to the point where they look for the pony now, and they're gentlemen on the pony. Not so much when we started. So Hemi Sealster, I went in to qualify him 2 or 3 times for Jeff Gillis so that we could get him to the gate.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
They paid me to come in to qualify. PL Idaho, same thing.
Wow.
And Per Henriksen always had 1 or 2 that he paid me to come in to qualify to get them to the gate and off the gate. One of them was Now You See It, Now You Don't.
Okay.
And without the pony, forget it. You weren't racing. It was, there was just no way.
Isn't that something? So is it, this might be a dumb question, from someone who doesn't have a natural sense of horsemanship at all. But what is it about the pony that they respond to? Like, is the pony calming them down? Is the pony intimidating them into succumbing to behaving? Or what effect is the pony having on them?
Once they get used to the pony, because there's a lot of young horses that will shy from the pony at first. They're not used to somebody on another horse's back. I just think they like the company. It's like a security blanket almost.
Okay.
Nervous, anxious, and now I've got a buddy.
Interesting.
So,
So do you have any more horses coming up through the ranks, or you're sticking with, you said one is perhaps going to retire soon? Is there another?
Well, Emma and I, we had a trotter named Sinful that we retired, and he's doing very well. I sent him to the Moluccas to get finished off. That's where Jay went, my last, the youngest one that I'm riding right now. The painted pony, Emma's used him at London. He likes the pomp and pageantry part of post parading or outriding.
Yeah.
He has ponied before. He ponied Good Times for Dave Wall under saddle, and he ponied a couple of the Russ girls. He's raced though, and he knows the gate, and he gets pretty warm. If I get in too tight to the gate, he gets pretty warm. So, I would use him later on, and I did use him at Mohawk here about 6 weeks ago on a night when I didn't anticipate having to get anybody to the gate. So, he did well, but it's a lot for them to take in and learn. So it's a slow process of getting them to be where the 2 that I work now are.
Right. That's a good point. I never thought of that either. If you're using a standard bred, who presumably raced at one point, that's now in their DNA and in their heads, and that probably doesn't work out so well initially.
No. And you can feel the horses you're ponying when the starter gives them that 1 minute signal and blows the horn. You can just feel them, 99% of them swell right up, and the game face changes, and they're ready for business, really.
Right. Yeah. Which you don't necessarily want at that moment in time. No. All right. Well, that's super interesting, Joanne. Thank you very much. One thing that we should mention, we've talked about the Moluccas many times here during this conversation. And I just give you an opportunity to tell us who the Moluccas are, because they're actually
the Moluccas I met through OSAS. They came to a show with their standard bred. And Bert and Susan and their son Chris are big fans of harness racing, and they started showing on the OSAS scene. Bert has a beautiful Palomino, and I tried to buy him several times, and he told me he wasn't for sale. So I said, okay, if I can't buy him, how about I send you Jay, who I just bought, and you make him just like your Palomino there. So he took Jay, and he had him, I think, 37 days, and he just finished him off beautifully. And that led to them becoming a foster farm for OSAS to do some retraining under saddle. And it's worked really well. Bert does some extreme cowboy and some obstacle courses with them, and just desensitizes them, and it's really worked out well for us.
Yeah, big supporters of the Ontario Standardbred Adoption Society, and very, very important to the program. Well, that's very enlightening. That's those are all the things that I hope to learn. All right, Joanne, listen, thank you very, very much for joining us. I'm sure we all have a much better understanding of the life and times of the Outrider, much deeper appreciation for all the nuances of the job. And thanks so much, as always, for joining us.